One sentence, that's all it took. Caitlin Clark's words shattered the carefully crafted illusion of the WNBA. Fans felt betrayed, the media hesitated, and a league built on her brilliance was suddenly exposed as fragile. This isn't just an injury story, it's a story of trust, greed, and survival in professional sports. Disappointed isn't a big enough word. Those words, spoken by Caitlin Clark, resonated far beyond the confines of a basketball court. They encapsulated the collective sentiment of fans who had invested their trust, time, and emotions into the WNBA's promising future. Clark's statement wasn't just about a player's frustration. It was a reflection of a deeper issue within the league. Before Clark's arrival, the WNBA was a league with potential, but lacking the widespread recognition it deserved. The average attendance in 2023 was approximately 6,615 fans per game, and while the league had its moments, it struggled to capture the mainstream spotlight. However, with Clark's entry, things began to change. Her dynamic play style, combined with her magnetic presence, brought a surge of attention to the league. Social media engagement soared by over 120% following her rookie season, and merchandise sales saw unprecedented spikes. The Indiana Fever, her team, experienced a significant boost in attendance, with some games nearing sellout crowds. But what was at stake wasn't just numbers or statistics. It was the very credibility of the league. Fans had placed their faith in a system that promised growth, inclusivity, and recognition. When that promise seemed to falter, the repercussions were felt deeply. The WNBA wasn't just facing a potential decline in viewership, it was confronting a crisis of trust. As the season progressed, the tension between the league's aspirations and its realities became more apparent. The question lingered: could the WNBA maintain its newfound momentum? Or was it on the brink of losing the very essence that made it appealing to fans? Caitlin Clark's entry into the WNBA was nothing short of transformative. From the outset, she showcased a blend of skill, determination, and charisma that set her apart. In her rookie season, she averaged 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game, leading the league in assists, and quickly becoming a fan favorite. Her impact wasn't confined to the court. Off the court, Clark became a beacon for the league's potential. Social media platforms buzzed with highlights of her performances, and her presence attracted a diverse audience. The Indiana Fever, her team, saw a remarkable increase in attendance, with some games drawing over 16,000 fans. This surge wasn't just about numbers. It was about the cultural shift she inspired. Brands took notice, leading to increased sponsorships and partnerships. The media landscape began to change. With more coverage dedicated to the WNBA and its rising star, Clark wasn't just playing basketball. She was reshaping the narrative around women's sports. Her influence extended beyond the game. She became a symbol of what the WNBA could achieve when given the right platform and support. Fans rallied behind her, not just for her on-court prowess, but for the hope she represented for the league's future. Despite the optimism surrounding Clark's rise, cracks began to appear in the WNBA's foundation. Games where Clark was targeted with aggressive fouls became more frequent. While physical play is part of basketball, the consistency and severity of these fouls raised concern. Data indicated that games featuring Clark had a higher incidence of uncalled fouls compared to league averages. Compounding these on-court issues was the league's handling of player injuries. Updates were often vague, and timelines for recovery were unclear. Fans, who had grown accustomed to transparency, found themselves in the dark. This lack of communication eroded trust and fueled speculation. Social media platforms became a battleground. Hashtags like #HaProtectClark trended as fans expressed their frustrations. Posts highlighted perceived injustices, and discussions about the league's accountability gained momentum. The digital space, once a tool for celebration, became a forum for critique. The tension between the league's management and its fan base grew palpable. What was once a shared vision of growth and success now seemed like a distant dream. The question emerged: was the WNBA prepared to handle the challenges that came with its newfound popularity? The tipping point came on July 15, 2025, when Caitlin Clark suffered a right groin injury that sidelined her for the remainder of the season. The news sent shockwaves through the league and its fan base. Clark wasn't just a player. She was the face of the WNBA's resurgence. Her official statement, "Disappointed isn't a big enough word," encapsulated the collective sentiment of fans who felt betrayed by the circumstances. The immediate aftermath saw a noticeable decline in ticket sales and merchandise purchases. Games that once boasted near-sellout crowds now struggled to fill seats. Social media engagement took a hit. Posts related to the WNBA garnered fewer interactions, and discussions shifted from admiration to concern. The media landscape, which had once celebrated Clark's rise, now questioned the league's sustainability without its star. The injury wasn't just a physical setback for Clark. It symbolized a deeper issue within the league. Fans began to wonder, had the WNBA built its foundation on the shoulders of a single player? And if so, what happened when that foundation cracked? The aftermath of Caitlin Clark's injury didn't just sideline a superstar, it exposed fractures in the very foundation of the WNBA. Fans didn't see a routine sports setback. They saw a betrayal, and betrayals have a way of igniting outrage. League inaction was the first shock. Clark had been targeted game after game, fouled aggressively, sometimes dangerously. Each uncalled foul, each ignored hard hit, wasn't just part of the game, it was a message to fans. The league seemed indifferent. Social media buzzed with clips of bruises, falls, and forced plays. Hashtags like Protect Clark and WNBA Fail began trending. Fans questioned why the governing bodies didn't step in, why the league allowed its brightest star to be pushed to the edge. Every day that Clark was sidelined without clarity, the perception of neglect grew. Then came front office greed. Fans began to connect the dots. The Indiana Fever and league executives were caught in the uncomfortable truth. Clark's presence was more than talent. It was money. Ticket sales skyrocketed when she played. Broadcast networks built programs around her highlights. Sponsors invested heavily, banking on her appeal. Yet, behind closed doors, there were signs she was being rushed back onto the court before full recovery. Fans saw it not as oversight, but as exploitation. Profit had taken precedence over well-being, and that realization stung more than any scoreboard loss. Comments and posts flooded online. She's being used. They're risking her career for a paycheck. How can we trust a league that gambles with its star? The final layer was media silence. Once the darling of sports media, Clark's absence created a vacuum. Early coverage focused on updates and timelines, but soon, mainstream outlets shifted attention elsewhere. Social media analytics reflected the change. Engagement rates for Clark's games and highlights had previously spiked by over 120%, but now mentions dwindled. National networks that had showcased her plays regularly barely touched the story. Fans felt abandoned, not just by the league, but by the voices that had amplified their excitement and hope. The combination of these betrayals created a perfect storm. Fans weren't passive observers. They were participants in a narrative of deception and neglect. Empty seats, reduced merchandise sales, and critical social media campaigns weren't just reactions. They were statements of disapproval, a collective refusal to condone perceived misconduct. This wasn't merely about one player's injury. It was about trust broken. It was about the realization that the league had prioritized optics, revenue, and convenience over the people who made it relevant. And fans remembered. They didn't forget. They weaponized their disappointment, turning loyalty into leverage, showing the WNBA that neglect comes at a cost. Clark's injury revealed the cracks, but the betrayals exposed the fault line. The league had underestimated the intelligence, passion, and resolve of its supporters, and in that miscalculation, the first seeds of collapse were sown. Supporting data highlighted the decline in viewership and social media engagement post-injury. Secondary market ticket sales plummeted, and merchandise sales saw a significant dip. Fans expressed their discontent by voicing concerns on various platforms, demanding accountability and transparency. The collective response was a powerful statement. Fans were no longer passive consumers. They were active participants in the league's narrative. Their loyalty was contingent on the league's actions, and the perceived betrayals had shaken that trust to its core. The financial repercussions of Caitlin Clark's injury hit the WNBA almost immediately. Teams that had once thrived on her presence suddenly faced empty seats. Ticket prices that soared when Clark played plummeted, some dropping by more than 60% in secondary markets. Games that once sold out in hours now struggled to attract a crowd, leaving arenas eerily quiet. Merchandise sales followed the same pattern. Jerseys, shoes, and memorabilia that had flown off shelves during Clark's games slowed to a trickle. Retailers and online stores reported sharp declines, reflecting the stark reality. The league had become heavily dependent on a single superstar to drive revenue. Sponsorships, too, wavered. Brands that had invested in the WNBA based on Clark's star power began to question the value of their partnerships. Multi-million-dollar deals were put on hold, renegotiated, or scaled back. Advertisers expected reach and engagement, and without Clark on the court, those metrics faltered. The absence of the league's marquee talent created a ripple effect, threatening long-term financial commitments. Broadcast networks, which had once celebrated record ratings during Clark's games, faced declining viewership. Ratings dropped significantly, leaving producers and executives scrambling. Programs built around her highlights lost their edge. Sponsors who had paid premiums for commercial slots now questioned the return on investment. Analysts began drawing comparisons to other leagues, noting that the WNBA's reliance on one player mirrored the fragility seen in professional leagues after star injuries or labor disputes. The consequences weren't just numbers on a balance sheet, they were existential. Empty seats, reduced merchandise sales, declining broadcast ratings. Each data point underscored the league's structural fragility. The WNBA had built a house of cards, and Clark's absence revealed just how thin the foundation really was. This financial fallout sent a clear message. The WNBA could no longer depend on a single talent to sustain growth. Diversification, deeper investment in emerging players, and robust contingency planning were no longer optional. They were essential. For executives and stakeholders, the stark reality was unavoidable. The league's survival depended on learning from this collapse and rebuilding a system capable of weathering future crises. The story of financial fallout is more than statistics. It's a lesson in vulnerability, in how the allure of instant success can mask long-term risk. Clark's injury didn't just sideline a star, it exposed the economic and structural weaknesses that threatened the very heart of the league. But as the days turned into weeks, the story began to shift. National outlets started questioning the league's management. Analysts highlighted the systemic issues Clark's absence exposed. The narrative evolved from Caitlin Clark injured to a league in crisis. The discussion moved beyond stats and game schedules to broader topics: player safety, league governance, and the fragility of a system built around a single superstar. Fans, ever vigilant, were not silent. Social media erupted. Posts flooded platforms criticizing the WNBA's decisions, questioning its commitment to protecting its players, and demanding transparency. Hashtags like #FountainProtectClark trended, not just as a show of support for Clark, but as a call for accountability. Each tweet, each post, and each thread amplified the story, forcing the league into the public spotlight. The shift in media coverage revealed a critical truth. The WNBA had become heavily dependent on individual talent to sustain attention and revenue. Without Clark on the court, viewership dropped, TV ratings weakened, and broadcasts lost energy. Analysts, commentators, and fans alike began connecting the dots. They saw that the league's rapid rise in popularity wasn't purely organic. It had been accelerated by one player, and the system itself lacked the resilience to withstand her absence. This narrative shift was more than just news reporting. It was a mirror held up to the league. Media coverage, combined with fan engagement, highlighted the structural vulnerabilities and forced urgent questions. Could the WNBA rebuild trust? Could it implement reforms to protect players and diversify its appeal? Could it survive another shock without Clark or another rising star? In the end, the media didn't just report the story, they became part of it. They shaped the conversation, amplified the concerns of fans, and exposed the league's dependence on a single superstar. The narrative control had shifted, and the WNBA was no longer dictating its own story. The pressure was on. Every decision, every statement, every game would now be scrutinized through the lens of Clark's absence and the lessons it revealed. The future of the WNBA after Caitlin Clark's injury hangs in uncertainty. One player's absence has revealed just how fragile the league's foundation can be. Fans, media, and stakeholders alike are left asking, what comes next? Clark's potential return offers a glimmer of hope. Her resilience, her determination to step back on the court, could serve as a rallying point, not just for herself, but for the league as a whole. If handled correctly, her comeback could inspire a new era of accountability, transparency, and respect for player welfare. Yet, the questions linger. Will the league be ready to support her fully? Will the mistakes of the past be addressed, or will history repeat itself? The situation has sparked urgent discussions about systemic reform. The WNBA can no longer rely on a single star to carry the weight of its reputation and revenue. Diversifying the talent pool, strengthening player development programs, and instituting stronger health and safety protocols are no longer optional. They are essential. Without these changes, the league risks repeating the same errors that led to this near collapse. Rebuilding trust with fans is equally critical. Transparency must become the new standard. Updates on player health, honest communication about league decisions, and meaningful fan engagement are all necessary to restore confidence. Fans are no longer passive spectators. They are active participants in shaping the league's future. Their loyalty is hard-earned, and it can vanish just as quickly as it was gained. Financial projections make the stakes clear. If the league fails to act, ticket sales could remain depressed, sponsorships may dwindle, and media coverage could continue to ignore its game. Conversely, a league that learns from this crisis, one that values its players and respects its fans, could not only recover, but emerge stronger. The WNBA has the opportunity to redefine itself, creating a sustainable model that balances competition, culture, and commerce. But the road ahead is uncertain. Clark's choices, the league's actions, and fan reactions will all play a role in shaping what comes next. The story is unfinished. Every decision now carries weight. Every action sends a signal, and every misstep could deepen the crisis. The future of the WNBA is not predetermined. It is being written in real time, and the eyes of the world are watching. Caitlin Clark's journey is far from over, and neither is the story of the WNBA. How the league responds now will determine whether this moment becomes a turning point or a cautionary tale. The journey of Caitlin Clark in the WNBA has been one of triumph, challenge, and reflection. From her meteoric rise to the pinnacle of the league to the obstacles she faced, Clark's story mirrors the broader narrative of the WNBA itself. It is a tale of ambition, resilience, and the pursuit of growth, both for the player and the league she has come to define. Clark's impact went beyond points scored or records broken. She became the heartbeat of the league, a symbol of what women's basketball can achieve when talent, opportunity, and passion converge. Yet, her challenges exposed cracks in a system that had relied too heavily on a single star to carry its reputation. The injury, the unanswered questions, the media silence, they were not just setbacks for one player. They were cautionary tales for the entire league. As fans, players, and stakeholders, we are all woven into this story. Every cheer, every ticket bought, every social media post contributes to the future of the WNBA. The decisions made today by the league, the teams, and even the fans will shape that future. Will the WNBA rise stronger, learning from past mistakes and creating a resilient foundation? Or will it falter under the weight of its own mismanagement and unfulfilled potential? The path forward is uncertain, yet it is filled with possibility. Caitlin Clark's journey is far from over, and neither is the story of the WNBA. What happens next depends on courage, accountability, and collective determination. The league's future, its credibility, its fans, its very essence, hangs in the balance. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with friends who love basketball. Comment below with your thoughts on Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. And if you want more in-depth sports stories and insider analysis, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.